Hey everybody, it's Jordan with PDQ.com. I'm here with President Jaron, as he likes to be called. And our news today is so big that we had to bring out the big guns.
Appreciate that, Jordan. I actually never know how to respond to you when you lead in with that.
I stopped playing the presidential march when you walked into the room.
Yeah, Jordan usually stands up and salutes, so I appreciate you kind of toning it down today. Pleasure to be here. We're going to have an exciting announcement. We actually have two today, so we're going to spend a lot of our time listening to the Smart Deploy team and talking with them. But before that, we wanted to lead with one more announcement for PDQ. I've watched enough webcasts. I've seen Jordan get a lot of questions, and some of the questions come over and over again. Also on Reddit, we've seen some of these questions, and one of the number one questions I see is, when is Deploy and Inventory going to have an agent? Something you've got before?
A couple times.
Perfect.
Weekly.
We wanted to announce today that our number one development priority is to get an agent-based solution for Deploy and Inventory. We expect for it to be later this year. And as part of this announcement, we need your help. We want to make sure this is super successful. We want to make sure that we're meeting your needs. We're going to open up a private beta. We'll take this in phases where for the first part, we'll have a few users give us feedback. How is this solution? How is it working for them? And then we'll continue to expand that until we have a public beta and then a launch later this year. If you're interested in giving us feedback, we want it. Go to pdq.com/beta and you can fill out a form to help us give feedback on our agent-based Deploy and Inventory. Pause there. Any questions on that, Jordan?
So I guess the first thing is, other than this year, we don't have any specific dates. So just as it comes up, if they're signed up for the private beta, we'll get them involved in that and then the public beta. But as specific dates, we're not going to have anything like that. But
yeah, I think with product development, like our biggest goal here is to make sure it's successful for the user. So to your point, we're not committing to a date. We know we have some great progress, and so we're expecting it this year. But as for the launch date, we're not ready to discuss that. Once we get feedback from people, we'll be in a better position to know when is this ready for game time.
Okay. All right. I'm sure there's probably going to be some questions on that one. As we've gotten the question a few times, if there's no questions now, I'm going to be very upset.
Yeah, if there was silence now, I'd be shocked. But yes, we appreciate it. We appreciate you guys asking. We want to let you know that this is something we're working on. You know, we've been in a great position to bring on investors with TA Associates, and that's helped us really accelerate this, bring in the right talent, and make sure we get the solution right. Okay.
Jaron, I do have a question. Is when you say Deploy and Inventory, do you mean the current iteration of PDQ Deploy and Inventory as it stands? Or we're putting an agent in that?
Yeah, great question. So Deploy and Inventory today are architected in a way that didn't have an agent planned from the original part of the roadmap. So for today, we're looking at really bringing Deploy and Inventory into a new agent-based solution. So it'll likely be a separate solution than Deploy and Inventory, but we will look for future possibilities to integrate the two. Well, we want to make Deploy and Inventory have an agent-based solution that allows for anybody to work in the cloud or remotely.
Yeah, we tried to shoehorn agent into the existing product before, and it did not go well. It wasn't equipped for that. Our products are fantastic, but this is something new where we could probably tie in later.
Yeah, exactly. And for those longtime users, listeners, viewers, they're aware of how that went last time.
Actually, we get some people that have pretty positive statements on it and disappointed that it's gone.
Okay.
All right.
That's our first announcement.
That's the first one. That's the small one. Let's get on to the big news.
Now we got the really exciting big announcement that you've seen, and you may have seen the press release as well. Today we have an awesome team with us today. We got Spencer and Austin from Smart Deploy. They're on our West Coast, so one area code over from us, or I guess one time zone over for us. So we'd love for you guys to introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about Smart Deploy, and walk us through what you guys are up to.
Perfect. That sounds great. Nice to meet you, everybody. I'm Spencer Dunford. I'm the GM for the Smart Deploy team, and it's just a pleasure to be part of PDQ. I mean, currently we have many joint customers, and for a long time, for capabilities we didn't have, we happily referred customers over to use PDQ, and so they're unsolicited. We get a lot of, man, I love PDQ and I love Smart Deploy, and so we've been pleasantly relieved and surprised to see the community reach out and be like, that's actually a combination I can get into and be excited about. And so this has been a fun week for us. We're eager to kick things off here and help you guys understand a little bit more about Smart Deploy. So I'm happy to give you a bit of an overview, and then Austin, my peer, will dive right in and show you what it looks and feels like, which is probably the more interesting part of the conversation. But at a high level, what Smart Deploy is going to give you guys is a centralized single image management solution right out of the box. And this is going to allow you to do common tasks that most PDQ and Smart Deploy customers use Smart Deploy for the initial OS and app provisioning of devices. So as you think about setting up desktops, laptops, tablets, even servers to a degree as well, anything Windows based, it's completely hardware independent, and your custom golden image that you make is going to work perfectly on any device in your organization. So it really saves customers from driver headaches because we take care of all of that. It takes care of all the stuff that you think about with sysprep and different versions of operating systems. And if you think about Windows 10, you're really at Windows 17 with all these versions they've had along the way. And now here comes Windows 11 and a whole new flood of drivers coming along. And how are we going to get this to work on everybody's computers? And that's really the core of what Smart Deploy is going to add value to you for. I should mention the product is super flexible with regard to implementation, and we've heard that from customers. We've been shipping this product since 2009. One of our very first customers was a government customer, and their requirement was Windows Server, I know I'm dating myself a little bit, Windows Server 03 and XP to 50 platforms on a DVD. And we were able to do that. And so we've never forgotten some of those roots, that some of our customers have those dark sites and those low-level requirements that have to work. That's awesome. As bandwidth is increased and internet's a thing these days, you can use the product on your existing infrastructure. So whether you want a Pixie boot or boot from a USB and pull from your cool SAN that you spent a bunch of money on and your fast network storage and image on your network, awesome, works that way. If you want to integrate with the cloud, we do that too. Over the last couple of years, that's grown increasingly popular, as you can imagine, with remote work. And what that's really enabling customers to do is, rather than having CDW or Inside or SHI drop ship computers to corporate, image them, box them back out, UPS them out, it's truncating that whole process and making it much faster and more reliable. You can just drop ship a machine to a home user, they unbox it, and corporate IT can re-image that device with their home Wi-Fi, zero touch. So having that flexibility has been helpful. And then of course the better together is, after the machine is provisioned, then you've got all the PDQ suite of tools to keep them up to date and secure. So we really do feel like this is a good fit, and we're excited to see where these journeys go. We're already getting a lot of questions about roadmap and how's this going to go. And more than anything, I think people are excited. And I think, just like Jaron mentioned, we want to delight customers. I've always been customer centric, and we see these comments and they, fuel us even more to be motivated to deliver on those things. The Reddits, the Spiceworks, the direct feedback, like we get it and keep it coming. Send it to feedback@smartdeploy.com too. We all take that stuff really seriously. So tell us what you think, tell us what you want. So I guess, think about using Smart Deploy like just a backup, provisioning newer existing devices and ensuring everything's going to run great. I think one last comment, just to give some people that are newer to the space some waypoints to think about Smart Deploy. We're not quite MDT. We're not quite Config Manager. We're not Ghost. We're Clonezilla. We're not Fog. We're not VDI, even though we love virtualization. We use it every place that makes sense, and the hardware independent nature sort of feels like VDI, but we're big fans of local compute, local horsepower, fast processing, offline capability. We're not MDT. We love the flexibility. We love WIMS and everything you can do with MDT. We love that it doesn't have a licensing cost, but I will tell you, that doesn't mean it's free. You got to be the engineer, the dev, test, architecture, and support, and that's not free. Not quite Config Manager. We don't have all the features and capabilities, and we don't require a team of 10 or 20 to be able to, manage something like that. So we're simple, straightforward. IT generalists can be up and running in an afternoon, and we commonly see when your back's up against the wall and you need to spin up an imaging solution and go crazy, you can do that with Smart Deploy. One last quick example, we had a hospital over the summer down in California. Their MSP was set to go use Config Manager to reimage the environment. Wasn't working out. Google Magic, found Smart Deploy. Our free trial is fully functioning, which is awesome, but it only works on 15 machines, and they had 750. They were literally at capacity treating COVID patients and had to image the whole hospital of 750 machines over a weekend. Extended their trial. They did all that stuff. They caught up and paid us money later, which was nice. But that just shows that, and that was all without one phone call with anybody on our team to help them out with anything. They were completely self-sufficient, off and running over the weekend to be able to do this. So that's just one, story that says, here's a great fit for what Smart Deploy is there for. And then I guess, as you guys all know from PDQ side, after it's up and running, then you get to keep it secure with third-party updates and understand from an inventory perspective and all that too. So we're excited to see where this goes. I'll kind of pause there and switch gears over to Austin, and he can show you what it looks like and cooler pictures than my dull words.
Sounds good. Let me go ahead and share my screen here and we can go get started. So my name is Austin. I work pretty closely with Spencer in the sales team. I'm the manager of the pre-sales team specifically. I've been in the industry about 10 years now, so maybe less than some, more than others, but I started as an MSP, actually doing deployments with Ghost and Acronis back in the day. And I moved over to Microsoft as an Exchange engineer. And now I'm kind of pulling it all together at Smart Deploy. I've been here a number of years, kind of helping people with their trial and getting started. So that's what I do. And I hope we can spend some time together. If you move forward with Smart Deploy in the future, we can have it one-on-one and we can learn a little bit more about that. But today, like Spencer said, you kind of covered the bases of what we're doing here. But what I'll do is provide kind of a technical demo of the product, and we can go through and see what it looks like. So what we're looking at here is the Smart Deploy console. It is an on-prem app. So if you've heard we have cloud integration, that's certainly true, but the app itself is on-prem. So you install it onto a machine in your environment. And I like to conceptualize kind of Smart Deploy as having the two major different features within the console here. You have this capacity of building out all the different deployment components, images, drivers, apps, those sorts of things, and then the ability to manage your remote machine. So again, very top level, kind of two major things the console is doing here. So what I'm going to do today in terms of the demo is start at the end. I like to start at the end to show where we're going, how we're tying it all together to kind of come at a place to start, and we'll go back to the beginning and talk about how to get there. So with that said, we'll go ahead and start over with this computer management tab over in the top left. So this here is powered by an agent that sits on your endpoints. And this can communicate back with your central console, either over the local network, as you can see, I have a number of these, or it can communicate via cloud. So it's designed to be flexible, like Spencer said. So that means that if you have a machine that started out life as a drop ship at your house, or is on a test bench in the office and you switch them, it'll automatically change the connection type to reflect that. So if someone goes home or comes into the office, it's a seamless transition there. If it's over the local network, just like it sounds, uses hosting value, it makes those machines easily able to communicate. If you have a cloud-based connection, we have a feature called Cloud Broker. It allows those remote endpoints to communicate via Azure to also appear in the consoles. Once again, if it's completely off network, you don't need your own network of any kind. You don't need a VPN or stand up any kind of public IPs or anything like that. It's all designed to be seamless in that regard. The cloud feature does integrate with one of these four cloud providers here, which is to say our software kind of brokers the connection, hence the name. And then you provide a cloud provider of your own to deliver the file. So you simply sign in, it saves a refresh token, and then when you go to deploy, it uses that to deliver the file. So the end user doesn't need admin access to the machine, doesn't need their own cloud storage or anything like that. It's designed to be seamless. So what does that all do? Well, there's a right-hand ribbon over here that allows you to do one of several actions. So deploy images, deploy apps, and deploy drivers are the three major things, again, that we can do regardless of where the machine is. And they're all designed to be UI based. Simply select a machine or a group of machines, hit the option you want, decide if you're deploying locally or cloud, and then you bring up this option here. Choose the deployment package you want. We'll go through how to make these and what these really represent here in a moment. But this is kind of a preordained group of deployment profiles. So which image, which driver sets, which apps, which naming convention, all those things are going to be set. And then you can push that out to your machines. Again, whether it's local or cloud, you have that full same functionality there. Same thing with drivers. We provide drivers to you. We have almost 1,700 of these now. And I'll go through this in more detail in a moment as well. But essentially, you select the machine you want. And some of these are VMs here. So I have a VMware Workstation pack. Say next and finish, and it will send a new set of drivers to that machine automatically. Again, this is a big big part of Smart Deploy and a service we provide is keeping these up to date on a regular basis. So you really don't have to think about those too terribly much. And that's really the major part of this console here, is the ability to push out images, apps, drivers, and capture and deploy user state to any machine that's connected via the client. So I have a number of machines here, but if you have 550 or 500, you'll see this list here and be able to manage those machines. So again, this is kind of your final window into this process. Once everything is built out, this is what you'll be using on a day-to-day basis for those machines that are remote. I would like to call out, as Spencer mentioned before, we are aware that a lot of people like to use USBs, or they use WDS, and those options are definitely still available in Smart Deploy. So if you're thinking, hey, these are options, maybe these are these are awesome options going forward, we still do have the ability to do those kind of old school, plug it in, boot it up options if that's still what you're looking for, or you're still in a test bench scenario. So with that said, I'll go ahead and transition over to back to the beginning. So from activities, reimage devices here, this is where you would begin at the very beginning. So you just install Smart Deploy, it's your first time looking at it, this is where you would start. And before we dive into these actual wizards, I'll just go through what they actually do, as again, at a high level to set the tone for what we're talking about. So Smart Deploy starts with virtualized machines. Spencer mentioned this. The idea is it's a clean, hardware independent place to start. So you will need a virtualization software of your own. We do support most of the major players in the industry, so it's pretty flexible in that regard. You spin up that VM configured the way you like. You'll then take that virtual hard disk and convert it into a WIM file. And that is going to be the first major milestone, is having that WIM file available. Download the platform package, pair up that driver set with your hardware independent image, create an answer file to script out the deployment. All that's again is UI based. And then lastly, you'll pull it all together with some media. And that's where your USB deployment package will come from. And that's where you'll get started. So with that said, we'll go ahead and dive in and go through this in more detail here. So the first piece would be the build wizard. Now, if you're familiar with virtualization or you just like to do it yourself, we're not going to stop you. You're welcome to do it. This is just a quick and easy way of getting a VM built out. I happen to like it just because it is. It's just so quick. Give it a name. This is just the name of the VM. It doesn't pertain to the deployed machine. Choose a Windows installer ISO. You can get this from the Windows Volume Licensing Service Center, or you can get this from the media creation tool from Microsoft if you don't have it already. Say next and finish, and it's just going to pop up in your virtualization software right here. And this is a big reason why we recommend having a virtualization software on the same machine as your console, just for the ease of use, and the process is just so simple, just right there. So I'm not going to bore you with actually installing Windows. I think everybody here has probably done that once or 100 times. But this process here is pretty straightforward. Again, you just install Windows the way you need to and boot it up. Now, the idea here is these are use case based images. So maybe you have a sales marketing team that needs a particular profile, or you need another one for your support or engineers. It's a little different. That's really what it's designed to do. So it's kind of a very broad group, and it's kind of lowest common denominator to a big group there. So patch it, install the line of business software that pertains to that big group, make sure it's a nice clean state, and go ahead and power it off. You don't have to worry about the size of the drives. You don't have to worry about the drivers or anything like that. It's just the specific Windows files that you need on there. You also don't need to sysprep this. We sysprep automatically down the road. So it truly is boot it up, install Windows, install apps, power it off. That's really all you need to do. Not to discount, that will take some time, a lot of unattended time, while it's installing Windows and so forth. But that's about it. So once you have that VM made, or a series of VMs made, you'll head back over to the Smart Deploy console and move to the next piece here, which is going to be the capture process. So the capture process is just like you might expect. You'll browse to a virtual hard disk that you want. It's the actual VHD that's running on that VM there. Say next, and it will scan that drive and tell you a little bit about it. Now, it's a hardware independent solution, so you really don't need to worry too much about those values. We just like to show people to give you an idea of, hey, what's in there. You can add a Windows product key, typically a volume license key, which you would add into here. It is optional nonetheless. If you have a different way of doing this, like you have a KMS or other options, you're welcome to do that as well. Standard image is what you'll want to get started. Simply puts everything that was in the virtual machine into your WIM. And this part, again, is pretty straightforward. It's kind of file explorer type operation here. Save the image, giving it a name that you would like. Again, typically it should be named based on your use case. So it's sales team, remote workers, computer lab, something like that would be what I would personally recommend. And then within there, you can give it a name and a description of the software that's included. That's important because when you go to create an answer file, or maybe 6 months down the road, to help you remember what you put in there. So once again, just hit next and finish. It's going to mount that virtual hard disk and rip it to an image. Compression is about 50% on that. So other than that, it's exactly as it was in the virtual hard disk. We haven't really performed any operations against that WIM yet. It's just basically just the way the files work. Again, that's the first major milestone, as I mentioned before, having an image to use. And the rest of the process is going to go pretty quick. You can just fire right through the UI and you'll be on your way. The next major piece, as I alluded to before, is the platform pack. So this is something that we're proud of. We keep up to date on a regular basis. And we're always adding new machines to this list. So for instance, if you have a T490 laptop, you could search for the T490 pack and so on. If you have an EliteBook or Surface machines, especially if you have HP, Lenovo, Dell, Surface machines, or Microsoft machines, there's quite a lot of these. But as a process, just download the platform packs for the machines that you intend to test with or you're going to be deploying in production. And then you will download that pack to the machine. And if you would like, you can see a list of all the machines that you have downloaded, and you can actually open up one of these packs and take a look at it. Now, most of our customers love this because they don't have to look at it and they don't have to mess with it. But for those who are curious or you want to have the flexibility, it is fully customizable, and the queries we use and the actual drivers we're pulling into here are all visible. So we get these from the actual OEM, compile them, clean them up, and then you have this big list here. So everything from the BIOS flash utility to the smart card to the video card, it's all in here. And once again, you can come through and delete or modify these as well. The way this actually works during deployment, for those of you who are curious, is there's WMI queries that are baked into each of these packs. So when you go to deploy with Smart Deploy, it will cross-reference the packs that you have downloaded versus the hardware you're on and pull the correct pack. So for instance, if you had a USB stick, plug it in, it says it's a T490, grabs a T490 pack. You pull the same USB out, you plug it into a Surface Pro, it puts the Surface Pro drivers on. And that's again, a big part of Smart Deploy and the hardware independence that we're offering. So again, pretty easy from a process perspective. Just download the pack and Smart Deploy will do the rest. The next major piece here would be the answer file. So open up this as well. The first major piece here is to determine where's your image coming from. You can choose cloud, and it's just like it sounds. You can authenticate with that cloud provider, just as I mentioned up in the top right corner before. Mine is pre-auth here. I've signed in before, and I can browse up to that storage and choose an image that I would like to use. Now, this one, of course, has been uploaded before, and to upload files, you can simply right-click on the image from within the console and upload it right to your cloud storage. If you choose this image, it will download a piece of it, do a checksum, make sure everything is healthy, and then it will proceed with the process as normal. It does have a refresh token in there. So again, when you go to deploy, the end user doesn't need to sign in or choose an account. It'll automatically be able to connect and go through that process. I want to back up and I will go to the local network option. So again, this option uses a set of credentials. We're using local map drives for this. So you can UNC path, netuse type command. We have domain user formatting here, of course, and you'll want some legitimate credentials, of course, in your process. But you use those credentials along with the UNC path that Smart Deploy automatically generates. So if you just browse to one of those images you may have made before, it'll pop up. And as I mentioned, this is why it's helpful to have a nice description in there, because it's going to tell you, hey, what's in here, and you can get a good sense of that. So again, using that UNC path with those creds to deploy over the network when you actually go to deploy. On the next page is the platform pack location. So you may have noticed the image is hard set to a particular image, whereas the platform pack is a folder, plays into that hardware independence yet again, as we're able to query that entire folder for packs. And what's kind of nice too, is if you make all your media, everything's set and ready to go, and somebody decides to plop a new machine on your desk that you've never seen or used before, you can simply download the latest pack to the console and your existing USB media will just continue to work. Next time you plug it in, it'll query this folder, it'll see it, and away you go. And again, that makes it nice to have that flexibility. Again, Smart Deploy does have the ability to push out application packs as well. So you can integrate those with our process. If you'd like, you can layer those onto your existing image and driver scenario there. And we have the ability, of course, to name the PC. So if you're re-imaging an existing machine, it will keep the existing name. If you are reading from a hardware value, that is fully customizable there. This is not our code. Some of you may recognize something like that. You can change that to serial number, or any of the other values that are within the System32 enclosure. And you can pick the name. You can also append a prefix to the beginning of it as well, if you want to have it say Seattle dash or laptop dash or any other combination thereof. And then lastly, you have the generate custom name option here at the bottom, where these pound signs will be random numbers. So if you have no particular naming scheme or you're just doing testing, that can be a nice way to simply kind of have a different name on each PC. So with all that said, the next page will allow you to use the user state migration tool to migrate user data. So again, this is really pertinent if you are doing an in-place upgrade. As I showed before, there is the ability to do it through the console. If you want to do it between machines, that's the major differentiator here. The console computer management tab lets you go from machine A to machine B. If you're migrating to new hardware, this is within a single machine. So if we're upgrading a particular laptop within Windows builds or just refreshing it, you can choose the option here, migrating user data, app data, and documents between the machines. So to keep a consistent user experience. Windows product key, once again, a Mac key. We do recommend this, although we do not require it. So if you have one, go ahead and put it in here. And we will actually pass this to sysprep as part of the deployment. So I called that out before. We run sysprep during deployment, which allows us to set several values, that being one of them, region, the name, the domain join here is yet another one. So if you do have a domain, which is of course pretty common, and you're on a local network, you can put in that information in here, and the machine will automatically domain join with that name that you provided as part of the deployment process. Lastly, here you have the region. We are located in Seattle area, as Spencer called out before, so that's where I leave it here. And then you have the ability to install the Smart Deploy client at the end here. So the Smart Deploy client will then install. It'll automatically do this right around the Control-Alt-Delete screen, and that machine will then appear in the computer management list post-deployment, thus allowing you to re-image it again, push apps or drivers to that machine once again, regardless of where it is. Now, this little box, if you're looking at this here, this is going to force a cloud connection. So again, normally it will pop back and forth depending on where you are. You can choose this option if you want to exclusively use the cloud. Quick summary, next and finish, and then it will generate that XML, and then you will be good to go. And that is the last component that you're building out prior to building out the actual media itself, which I have over here. Now, these are kind of the overarching options. Would be the top one is kind of your classic connect to a network resource type scenario. It's a USB, a DVD, or an ISO. You plug it in, you boot it up, we create a map drive, or we use those refresh tokens to find a cloud resource, and it streams everything to the machine. That's your kind of your normal Smart Deploy process. That's our kind of the baseline. The second one here is going to be offline deployment media. The idea is, just like the name it implies, it's all on the USB stick. You plug it in, no network required. Now, we've worked with government agencies in the past. I talked to somebody one time who was using these for police cars. So there's no network at all. They need to plug it in. That's a scenario where you can do that. WDS, this third one here. So WDS is a server role, as I'm sure many people know, and you could integrate with an existing WDS instance. We create the boot WIM. So essentially WDS is handling the Pixie client, and we have the boot files. So WDS serves up our files, and you can have the exact same Smart Deploy experience with that. You can even do WDS to cloud if you want. It's very flexible in that regard. And then the last option is the deployment package. So going back to the very beginning where I was going through the computer management, you may have seen that drop down that I had. I can choose those deployment scenarios. That is where that list is populated. So I'll choose the top option here today. These platform packs have their NIC driver and storage drivers pulled out of them and included into the USB media itself. The reason I say that is because if you've ever tried to deploy and you've seen a machine that's missing a hard drive or doesn't have a NIC and inexplicably just vanished, usually because those drivers are missing, and that's why we include them there in this process. So we kind of do that to avoid that eventuality. On the following page here, once it validates my packs, you can see that you can choose one of those answer files. Now, you don't have to have an answer file, but we strongly recommend it. This will allow the process to be completely automated. Plug in the USB, boot to it, and you can walk away. That's kind of the purpose of the answer file there. Again, you can drop it on a USB, or you can burn a DVD if you still have any DVDs laying around. And the DVD option also allows you to create an ISO. So for my use cases, I have a lot of VMs. It's a great way to do that. You can burn an ISO like that. Once again, next and finish mounts the PE files and writes them over to there. And that would be it. That would be the end of the process, and you would have everything that you need to do. So again, If you're doing a test bench scenario, you have new machines in your office or your remote, there's kind of a different option you can choose depending on that scenario. The last thing I will call out as part of our demo here is the trial that we offer. So again, that's kind of my space, work with a lot of trial users. Hope we have the opportunity to work together. It is a 15-day, 15-machine trial. It is fully functional, has all of the cloud options, all of the local options. So it's a good way to get your hands dirty there and play around with it. And like I said, if we can help at all during that process, by all means, please let us know. So thank you. I hope that was informative. I appreciate everyone's time here. I'm excited to be here at PDQ, and thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Great. Thank you for the demo. That was awesome.
Yeah, it might be helpful if I recap for anybody who has either came late or missed the first part. So 2 big announcements today, and then we can get into some questions. And the first one is we love deploying inventory, and we're very proud of what it's done. We have over 20,000 users on deploying inventory, plus those of you who have used the free product as well. But we also hear you. We know that in a remote environment, it's not always ideal for your solutions that you need. We are releasing later this year an agent-based deploy and inventory. Now, to be clear, this is a standalone product. Deploy and inventory are great, but adding an agent would be a significant change to deploy and inventory. So this will be a separate solution that will be agent-based deploy and inventory with a web interface. Now, the second one is the one that we just talked about as well, Smart Deploy. We're pretty excited about this. We got excited about Smart Deploy internally as we started to use it. And then as we reached out to our customers, as Spencer mentioned, we saw a ton of overlap. And similar to what we've seen since the press release, a lot of people are already using Smart Deploy and PDQ. Our goal is to make device management simple, secure, and pretty damn quick. And we think that Smart Deploy is going to be an exceptional way for you guys to do that. Okay, Kelly, any questions that we can help with Smart Deploy? We
have quite a few questions that we can go through. As a matter of fact, we'll probably just jump right into a speed round. So we'll see how fast we can go through these. And Smart Deploy, folks, you can come off mute because a lot of these are going to be directed toward you as well. And we'll just bring your audio in. All right, our first question of the day: will Smart Deploy become the new agent for deploy and inventory? Sincerely, Marcel L.
I'll go on this one. Yeah. Marcel, thank you for the great questions. Always. We love it. We love you. So this combination, this teaming up is new. This is new for us. And we're excited about the potential that it brings to both companies. I think in a lot of ways, we're going to be able to learn from each other and accelerate both the roadmaps on both products. Right now, that is not the anticipation that it'll become the agent for deploying inventory. This is something that we've been developed and worked on, but we're so excited to look into their agent, to see the learnings they have from it, and help accelerate our agent-based deploying inventory. Thanks, Marcel.
All right, next question. Will there be support for Google MDM? Josh C.
I'm stumped on this one. I mean, not that I have. So again, if our goal is to make device management simple, secure, and pretty damn quick, right now we do it really well within Windows. We're also doing it in the Apple ecosystem with Simple MDM. Google, we'll see. We're excited for that opportunity in the future, but right now, no immediate plans.
And our next question, coming from none: will PDQ now include endpoint agent versus relaying on DNS for resolution?
Relying, maybe?
So, I mean, this one is kind of answered. We're in the private beta. You can sign up for it at pdq.com/beta.
Oh, got it. So this is for the future product.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that I don't know the answer on this one, so I can't speak to it. I'm actually not the person who, in the future webcast, we're actually planning to have our head of product, Mark. He's fantastic. He'll be on, and then we can get our future engineering talent as well, but I couldn't answer this one, how we're going to do it. But if you go to pdq.com/beta, give us your feedback. Give us what you like about it. Help us understand it. Help us test it. See if it meets your needs.
All right. And real quick before the next question, the IT Ninja's been trying to get this one. The agent one, the beta agent, is a separate product from existing deploying inventory. That's what he's been trying to find out.
Yeah. To be clear, this is a standalone product. We recognize what is successful with deploy and inventory, and so we're making an agent-based version of deploy and inventory. On a side note, too, we're not sure of the name of it, so if you have suggestions, please put them in the message now, or send me an email on that as well.
PDQ Ultron.
There we go.
As my suggestion.
All right, next question. Gentlemen, so having now Smart Deploy and a client installed on the machines, is that what we will use with PDQ Deploy if they are not on VPN? We can use the client from Smart Deploy? Russell G.
So today, standalone, separate products. You could use Smart Deploy for certain solutions and PDQ Deploy and Inventory. We know PDQ Deploy and Inventory are fantastic solutions for anything on a VPN or local area network, but right now these two products aren't in harmony as much as we could have in the future.
All right, let's move to a new question. What is the pricing for Smart Deploy? Russell G.
I'm going to defer. Spencer is going to know this one a lot more. So Spencer, if you want to walk us through Smart Deploy's pricing, I think that'll be helpful.
Yeah, no problem. Just go to smartdeploy.com/buy. It's licensed as a subscription, as you'd expect most IT management products are these days. It's tiered from a feature set. So you got starter, small, medium, large. So starter, pro, and plus. You want to think about it. It's basic imaging in the starter section. The middle category gets you application deployment capabilities, either as a scripted install as part of your initial deployment, or some customers use it after the fact. And then the last category adds everything plus cloud. That's kind of how it's packaged from a pricing perspective. Think about, a 50-seat project costs you probably about $1,000 a year, give or take. And then pricing's tiered, so the more that you buy, the price per unit goes down. But you can also go ahead and request a quote in the right at the top of the website as well, and we'll get you right with our business development managers, and they'll get you a custom quote based off of your project needs and seat size and all that. So pretty straightforward.
All right, next question lined up. What advantages does Smart Deploy have over Windows Autopilot? Thanks, Machine 5464.
Yeah, good question. I like that one. The Autopilot program is really cool. It's just, they're both trying to accomplish similar goals. They do things in very different ways. Autopilot is really a customized Windows Mini setup, and it's not an imaging solution. Smart Deploy is a straight up imaging solution. You're booting to Windows PE, you're blowing away the disk, you're laying down a new image, you're running any custom scripts that you want, you're sysprepping the machine, you're doing all of that stuff. So, I like Smart Deploy because I think it's cleaner. You're starting from a baseline, a fresh scratch, everything. Autopilot, you might still end up with Candy Crush on your start menu, which doesn't work for a lot of enterprises. So there are pros and cons to each. I encourage customers to try out all of the tools and see which ones work the best for them. And, there may not be a one size fits all. I think the Autopilot goal is more along the lines of CDW dropships your machine, you upload the SKUs and the software that you want, end user unboxes the machine, and it starts to stream down and reconfigure the machine with a customized Windows mini setup. So, and that may work for some users. For a lot of our businesses, like I say, Candy Crush, trial software, all that stuff's got to go. They want customized wallpapers and desktop icons, and some customers have big, heavy applications, AutoCAD or something like that, that doesn't work well it being installed after the fact. That would be my key takeaways on that. And then the other part is the benefits that you're looking for an Autopilot of, like, hey, just drop ship a machine. Customers are doing that instead with Smart Deploy with cloud capability. So good question, though.
All right, next question queued up. Curious to know if Smart Deploy is going to remain a separate application, or is that functionality going to be rolled into the PDQ console? Sincerely, Jerf.
Good question, Jerf. Jaron had alluded this to as well. Prior to this acquisition, we both had our own unique product roadmaps, and we got to rationalize that short and long term. And I think, as Jaron alluded to, we're here to delight customers and figure it out. And for now, they're going to be separate products, like Jaron mentioned. But if down the road it makes sense to do something more joint or it's more efficient, then those are things that we'll have to sort out with the new organization. We're eager to have those conversations. We're eager for the customer feedback. And to a large degree, Jaron, correct me if I'm wrong, but we listen to customers, and if that's what everybody's screaming for, then at some point we'll figure out how to do what their customers are asking for. But for now, as Jaron said, they're going to be separate solutions, and we'll see.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I mean, our goal is to try to unlock value for all the customers, and so we'll look for every opportunity to do that.
All right, let's go on with another question. Hey guys, can the proxy for the future agent be also private? Marcel L.
I'm not sure I fully understand.
If Jordan's stumped, then I am stumped as well. So I would not know the answer to that, Marcel, but we can look into a better understanding of your question and maybe a better answer as well.
Yeah, I guess I'm just missing what he means by the proxy, because the beta of our product is going to be private, but I don't know what he's asking for past that one.
Okay, well, hopefully this next question we'll have an answer to. Gentlemen, can you deploy BIOS updates with this product? I'm assuming they're meaning Smart Deploy. Louis E.
Yeah, for sure. I can take a second to speak to that. So these platform packs is what we call them, and these are all of the device drivers that come from the manufacturer's OEM for the device. So so you make your VM, and then we sanitize it, and there's your WIM. So that beautiful WIM is completely hardware independent, and we put Humpty Dumpty back together again at deployment time. So you're going to boot to PE. We're going to know the make, model, and OS of that particular device. We're going to drop down only those particular device drivers for that machine. And as part of our patented boot time driver injection, we're going to lay all that stuff down. The nice part is, and one differentiator that you might be familiar with, a sector-based tool like Ghost or Clonezilla or Fog or Acronis, like that's not possible to do as part of straight imaging. Right? You're going to have to do that after the fact. But with Smart Deploy, those packages are there. There's intelligence also built in. So Dell's pretty famous for needing to be at one version before you can get to next. So there's logic, chain logic built in. So if you got to be at A2 before you can get to A5, before you get to A13, it will do those things for you. So that's part of an initial deployment. Yes, all in box and included. Further, you can add any other custom software there that only applies to a particular make, model, and OS if you want to do that way. Pretty uncommon though. The other part is that 6 months down the road, if there is a BIOS update and there are driver updates, you can push those to the machine without needing to re-image it as well. So the long-winded answer, the short-winded answer is yes. The long-winded one is that's a big customer delighter, and it comes up a lot. And it really speaks to the security story. A lot of vulnerabilities and trying to keep endpoints as secure as we can, and that's one good way to do it. So.
All right, next question up. Gentlemen, can this product use the base WIM from the Windows 10 11 media, or must you use a VM? Fat images are a thing of the past, really. Justin B.
No, I get it. I think the supported way is really start from a VM, and that way we can control the process. I've seen, we do write some custom nodes in the, so we've got a couple of components. One of them is called Smart WIM, and that's how we work and talk to virtual machines. So if you did a Smart WIM command / info and to see what's in there, you'll see an output of the types of information. And when we capture a WIM with Smart Deploy, we do store a custom couple nodes in there so that we know what to do with the thing at deployment time. So the supported way is start from a VM, make it the way you like, shut it down and capture it. That doesn't mean customers haven't tried other workarounds, meaning, hey, just use that stock WIM, blow it out to a VM and then capture it. And that might be one method for you, but we have no idea really where that WIM came from, what happened to it, how many times it was sysprepped before, and so on. Honestly, the biggest pain with Smart Deploy is installing Windows one time. And that's the ironic part. It's got nothing to do with us. That's installing Microsoft Windows and running Windows updates. So if you can bear with us, it's one of those things that your work up front on that front will be rewarded. I've just seen the wheels fall off the bus down the road and eventually have some issue and you trace it back to where we started, whether you try to do a P2V or capture a physical machine or whatever. So that's why we support it of, spinning up a new VM and making it the way you like and capturing from there.
Nice.
Good question, though. I mean, if it were up to me, I would just distribute either pre-configured virtual machines or pre-configured WIMs that already did that. And it's incredibly difficult to redistribute Windows, as you guys might imagine from a licensing perspective. You just can't do it. Right? We worked on projects with Microsoft trying to do that to their own field, and that was a challenge, let alone to partners, let alone customers doing it themselves. So it's not that we wouldn't want to shorten that or make that process be better legally. It's just an issue. We can't distribute Microsoft Windows all in that way.
All right, we have a few more questions in the queue. Gentlemen, if we currently use Fog for imaging and PDQ for app updates, what would be the benefit of adding Smart Deploy licensing? We've got about 200 machines. Thanks, Chad S.
Oh, beg the pre-sales team for a deal. You'll be delighted. I think the biggest thing is if you're in a hardware diverse environment, that would be my number one. If you've got more than one make, model, OS, and config of machines, Smart Deploy is going to be a huge delighter. Commonly, Fog is cool that it's open source, but it's a sector-based tool, and Smart Deploy is not. It's file-based. The meaning its job in life is like the old hard disk duplicators from the old PowerQuest days or Ghost days or whatever. You're literally making a sector by sector copy of a hard disk. And that works awesome if you're deploying back to the exact same make, model, OS, config, all the way through. Where it starts to be problematic is constellations and then changes that you make to try and shoehorn an image made for one machine and one specific hard drive size and certain partitioning to another one. So that would be my number one. If it's Fog's working for you and you have literally all 200 of those machines are in a lab and they are identical, the value proposition for Smart Deploy goes down. Doesn't mean it isn't there, but from an ease of use, driver management, flexibility, those are all the pluses. And there are additional, features with Smart Deploy, and we do have a roadmap that we're working towards, and all of that stuff that would differ even further from Fog. But in short, today, if diverse hardware environment, yes or no would be my biggest decision tree.
All right, looks like we've got about 6 questions that we can get to here. Guys, are the platform packs automatically updated or must it be done manually? This is coming from Gene, the dancing machine.
I love it, Gene. This is a dance on the dance floor that never stops. So our team is constantly going to the manufacturer's websites, downloading, configuring, repackaging, and updating. And it's just a treadmill that we're going to be on for forever. It's one of a huge customer delighter. Technically, these are driven by customer service request or a ticket or an ask. But we've got probably 3,000 packs in the library. And if we look at our top 50 packs, that's probably covers 90% of what customers are looking for. And so those we stay on top of all the time without a customer proactive action, just because we already know it's obvious, keep those ones up to date. So yeah, it's a manual process. It's fast turnaround. Support has been a big differentiator for our team, and you can get a feel from that even from a pre-sales perspective on how responsive they are and able to address your needs. But yeah, technically it's driven by service requests, but we do keep those up to date. I wish there were a magic robot that just did it for us. I mean, that'd be one of our number one employees, I think, but those magic robots are humans these days, and it's hard work, man. I mean, it's technically complicated. It's time consuming. It's challenging from the fact like there's not a bunch of people walking around that know what INFs are for, let alone executables and everything else, and how to deal with all of that stuff. And so there's a huge value add there. And yeah, our guys work on it and clean them up and make them perfect, and away we go.
All right. 5 more to go. Guys, what happens if you are doing a remote deploy and your system powers off due to a power failure? Sincerely, Francis C.
I think it's going to depend on where it happened when that power failure happened. Basically, what happens is all roads need to lead to Windows PE. We have a customized version of Windows PE. We call it Smart PE. Once the machine gets booted to PE, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but the PE exists only so that you can service any file on the disk. As you know, if you try to have a Word doc open and you're working on it and you try to move it somewhere, Windows says no. So if you're in PE, you can move any file or do anything that you want to the disk at all. So we're going to get to PE, NTFS quick, format the drive, lay down the image, copy down the platform packs, run any custom scripts or tasks you want, sysprep the machine, and it'll restart. And then once it restarts, then the image is there, the packs are there, and it's just finishing the process of installing Windows. So if you got through PE and the image got down to the machine and the BCD was reset to get to Windows and then the power went out, well, you're just in Windows trying to figure it itself out. And my guess is maybe it'll blue screen, but give it a couple restarts and it will finish. If you were in PE, theoretically, if you were in PE, assuming number one, it's a desktop that needs a power source as opposed to a laptop that might still run on battery. If you're in PE and you blew away the disk and then you lost power before it had a chance to lay down the new image and copy down the drivers and all that stuff, the machine would be sort of air quotes dead because there's no data on the desk and the BCD is not set to boot to Windows, and there is no Windows. So essentially the get out of jail would be, what's the quick way? Probably USB stick, or if you were in an environment, just power F12 to Pixie and to get yourself going again. Because if you think about it, you're in a Zero OS bare metal situation at that point. I honestly don't hear about that coming up too often, but it's a good question, and that's what would happen.
We love the theoreticals. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
All right, next question. Hey guys, can image creation be automated with Smart Deploy? Nate T.
Not really. I mean, you're really creating a new virtual machine and making Windows look the way you want, shut it down, and browse to that virtual hard disk, and it makes a whim for you. It's not that hard, and if you can install Windows one time, I think the other thing to consider is that our customers really take their time on that spot. That's definitely, from a carpentry example, that's your measure twice, cut once. That's make sure it's perfect, because whatever you do there is getting transferred to all your end users' machines. So don't cut corners, be clean, make sure you see everything working the way you like. Make sure as you're installing everything, you don't see blue screens or weird restarts or crummy installs. Like, you're in control of that, and it's literally it's garbage in, garbage out. And from an automation perspective, we call it cook time, bake time. The what do we call it? Active time, inactive time. Basically, your active time for that piece of installing Windows is probably 5 minutes, 10 tops. But Windows doing its thing, it might take a half an hour. It might take an hour, depending on what version of Windows, how fast the VM is, how much proc you gave it, how many updates there are, like factors, and then how custom you want to be. A lot of customers need specific things done, especially hospitals, banks, people with different security requirements. So short answer, no. Long answer is it's not that big a deal. If that helps.
All right. Got about 3 questions left or so. Guys, so if I'm understanding this correctly, Smart Deploy can also be used to keep systems drivers up to date? Tyler K.
Yes, sir. Exactly. That's right. So initial provisioning, up to date. After the fact, up to date. Yep.
Outstanding. Moving on to the next question. Is the expectation that the agent will be one product that functions as both inventory and deploy, or 2 separate agents? Asking for naming. Josh C.
Yeah, I'll speculate on this. One agent that works for both products. We want to make sure that job to be done of both understanding what needs to be deployed and to which machines to deploy it, and the status of that is going to be kind of one job to be done with one agent.
All right, and our final question in the queue, will the PDQ agent, will this remove local admin permissions to inventory machines? We are not comfortable with having one user as a local admin for all workstations and servers. Thanks, Ed L.
We can speculate. Jordan, do you?
Well, with the existing projects, you don't have to do local admin. You can, if you have lap setup, you can use that, where it's I guess a more diverse option than just a single account. I suspect there'll be something similar with the agent, but I haven't had my hands on it either. So but Laps has been popular enough that I'd be surprised if it wasn't.
We didn't go that route. So again, kind of reemphasizing, we don't have the details on that right now, but we're still working on those things, and we love the feedback. Want to make sure that it's the best solution to delight the user. Yeah. One last thing I did want to kind of emphasize, and maybe got pinged that not clear on. Deploy and inventory are our flagship products. Like, they have done so well, and we hear how much people love them. It's part of the reasons I came to PDQ is because you go on Reddit, or you go on our communities, or you go on these webcasts, and you see how many people truly love PDQ Deploy and Inventory. This is something that we're excited about to augment with another product, to continue that job to be done with our agent-based product. But Deploy and Inventory is going to be a focus of continuing to develop that and to improve that and give great experiences for people for years to come.
Now, there have been a number of questions. It's kind of hard to do them all individually, but just a general overall question about pricing regarding Smart Deploy, regarding Deploy and Inventory. Any clarification that you could give us on pricing?
Yeah, love to. So today, as Spencer and I both kind of emphasize, these two companies are just coming together. Right now, they're two separate products, two separate teams, and we're working to integrate those from a team standpoint first and really look for the ways that we can unlock value for our customers. They are priced separately. In the future, as we even think about our agent-based product, one of the things that's core to PDQ's DNA is to really give the right pricing, particularly for SMB, for small businesses, particularly for education, particularly for nonprofit. Like part of our DNA is to invest in these markets, into these areas. And so be conscious of that. We want that to continue in our DNA. We want to spread that DNA as well to any of the tools or any of the products or any of the companies that we partner and team with. So while I can't give specific details today, know this is important to us and core to who we are at PDQ.
Great. I think that's all the questions we have. Special thanks to Spencer and Austin, guys, for taking time, and welcome to the PDQ family. Really great to have you guys here.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
And Jordan, camera 2.
All right. Thanks for tuning in. I know this was a lot of information to take in, a lot of changes. I think I'm excited for where it's going, and I think I'll be pretty impacted based on where it goes. And for me to be positive, I think is a good sign. Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
PDQ, I'm Jordan.
I'm Sharon.
Thanks for joining our webcast today. Congratulations going out to Chad S. and Francis C., winners of PDQ swag. You can send us your info at webcast@pdq.com. If you liked what you saw today and you want to see more of it, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you have additional technical questions, reach out to our support forums. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you back here next week.